Hello everyone! You probably already heard about the big buff for Cofagrigus, that now it has Shadow Claw instead of Astonish as a fast move, which increased the total damage output for Cofagrigus with more than 50%. And of course I wanted to try it out, so what I did is I asked 3 of the best players in the world what line they would recommend using Cofagrigus, and my challenge was to see which team I could stay undefeated with the longest. You see the 5 teams and their creators here on the side, and I played all of these teams in every set, 1 game each, and I managed to win 28 games in a row now in early Season 9. I had tanked down right in the beginning, so many opponents were not that experienced and some just resigned immediately, but there were still many interesting and close games. So in this video I will showcase 8 cherry-picked battles to present each team. So first up is Severe Soul, and here I'm using Puncturgan's team, and Puncturgan is one of the best battlers in the world. He has been rank 1 on the GBL leaderboards and he creates amazing teams. So the idea with this team is that I swap into Cresselia to check if there are any dark types in the back, but Cresselia can usually handle dark types pretty well since it has the Moonblast. So Cresselia can often take switch advantage or shield advantage. And then Cofagrigus is used in the end as a closer, when there is likely no dark type left. So here my opponent has a Shadow Abomasnow and he starts shielding, so that's great. I'm not going to shield this second Weather Ball, because I can survive it, and hopefully I can get the second shield from my opponent. And you saw me stay in the beginning with Obstagoon, and that is because I want to be versatile. I traded almost half of my health on Obstagoon just to have a short move ready, so that I could use it at any time when the switch timer was up. So now I'm in an amazing spot. Cofagrigus is very likely to at least have a neutral matchup in the end, so with 2 shields I'm confident that I can win this, but I'm just not gonna let my Obstagoon go down yet, because I need to have it alive in case there is an Obstagoon in my opponent's back. So I will keep my Obstagoon alive just so that if there was an Obstagoon I could have used a cross shop and then I would still win with Cofagrigus. But now it's a Frostlass in the back and my opponent resigns. Moving on to the second game against Tomato Ang, and here I'm using Babylicious team, and Babylicious is of course the reigning European champion, and I'm picking up a very good lead. So the idea with this team is, while Puncturgan targeted dark types to bait out, Babylicious is targeting Wigglytuff specifically, because Cofagrigus don't like the normal typing that Wigglytuff has, and Wigglytuff is pretty common. So you can bait that Wigglytuff with Mandibuzz and then destroy it with Nidoqueen and sweep with Cofagrigus in the end. So here my opponent baits me twice, so I'm down both shields, but then they are not able to reach the Blast Burn. So here I'm up to almost 100 energy, and as soon as I see the typing in my top right corner, I'm going to throw the Shadow Ball, and usually you can just throw a Shadow Ball blindly, because you're going to use Shadow Ball like 90% of the time when using Cofagrigus. But my opponent has a Registeel as their last Pokemon, so this is a terrible spot suddenly. Firstly, because I'm not going to be able to reach my Earth Power, and then secondly, because my Mandibuzz does not have Snarl, it has Air Slash. So now I'm in a terrible spot, but my opponent's Registeel is debuffed. So I'm going for a foul play, and when they see how much damage it does, they think, oh no, my Registeel might be able to be farmed down after one more foul play. So they switch into Meganium, which actually is a mistake. So here I'm just going to farm down all the way. This Meganium cannot do anything against Mandibuzz, and I'm able to reach 2 foul plays before my opponent's next charge move. So this was a very, very close game, but I managed to keep the win streak alive. Moving on to the next game against Tati, and I know Tati, he's from Finland and he's the highest rated elite player in Silpharina, so this will for sure be a tough game. And I'm using Danne's team, which has Cofagrigus in the lead, and then it's an ABB line with ice types in the back. So my opponent lead with a fighting type, so that's pretty good for Cofagrigus, even though my opponent's Surfetch'd has Night Slash. So I need to start shielding the second and onwards Night Slash if I want to take the switch advantage, and I kinda need to, because my backline does not appreciate this Surf Edge, even though Frostlass is decent against it. So now I have a shield advantage and my Frostlass has some energy advantage, but Tati has a Registeel. So I overcharge slightly just so that he doesn't catch it on some normal type. And then my opponent goes for Flash Cannon, and of course I need to shield because Lapras does not have a good matchup against Registeel. So I connect with another Shadow Ball, and then my opponent switches into his own Frostlass. So here I win the CMP. Otherwise, I don't know really who would have won this game, because that Registeel might have been able to reach another charge move against Lapras, but very close game. Moving on to the next game against Smoltski, and here I use my own team, which is Cofagrigus and then Blastoise and Alomomola in the back, and my opponent's Obstagoon hard counters my Cofagrigus, so of course I need to switch. And the idea with this team is that Blastoise can check pretty much every single hard counter to Cofagrigus. So even though it might not always be able to defeat a Mandibuzz or a Lickitung or a Snorlax, you will always be able to put it low enough to be in farm down range or take switch advantage or shield advantage. So Cofagrigus and Blastoise pairs very well. So here I decided to double shield to force a switch advantage, and then the Obstagoon comes back and my opponent shields once, but they're going to let the second one go. And then of course I need to have alignment, so I'm letting my Blastoise go down and my opponent gets an energy advantage. But Alomomola is incredibly tanky, so all of that energy pretty much is soaked up by the tankiness in Alomomola. These Night Slashes are not even dealing half of the HP. And then my opponent's last Pokemon is Nidoqueen, and that's another good thing with this team, that Nidoqueen is very common, and all three of my Pokemon beats Nidoqueen pretty comfortably. So here I tank an Earth Power and KO this Nidoqueen, and I know that my opponent's Obstagoon is not going to be strong enough to KO both of my remaining Pokemon, and my opponent resigns. Moving on to a battle against Joseph Shen, and here I used my favorite Remit Cup team, which consists of Cofagrigus in the lead and then Golbat and Pidgeot in the back. And the idea with this team is that any fighting type has nowhere to go against this team. So as soon as your opponent has a fighting type in their team, no matter the position, they are in a disadvantage. And I've used this team in 41 battles the last few days, and I've only lost 3 of them. So this team is really strong, and well, my opponent realized there is no way for his Toxicroak in the back to go, and I win the game. Next up is Fiddle Freak, and now when I've already showcased all of the teams, I will showcase 2 more interesting battles, and also I will showcase the game that ended the 28 game win streak. So I'm back with Bibi's team, and of course my Nidoqueen is hard countered by the Whiscash. So I switched into my Mandibuzz and tank a Blizzard. It hurts a lot, but it's still fine since Mandibuzz is so incredibly tanky. And my opponent sends in a Clefable. So the better play, I think, would have been to charge up a bunch of energy on Whiscash and then Charm down all the way with Clefable. But this gives me the opportunity to farm up a ton of energy on Nidoqueen instead. Of course, I shield here because they were one Charm away from Psychic, but a Meteor Mash would still hurt a lot. So now when the Whiscash is down to half health, it's a good time to bait. So I threw my Poison Fang, and then I banked the second Poison Fang for later, and my opponent's last Pokemon is a Registeel. So that's amazing for Cofagrigus. 2 Shadow Balls will pretty much be enough to take down the entire Registeel, and Cofagrigus is not yet in Flash Cannon range. A Flash Cannon deals like 45% damage. So I would still have been able to get this second one off, but better safe than sorry. So that's why I shielded the Flash Cannon. And then I go back into Nidoqueen to, as soon as possible, get the debuff on Whiscash, so that I'm able to either farm down with the Cofagrigus or reach another Shadow Ball. And I'm just able to reach the next Shadow Ball before my opponent gets another charge move. Moving on to the next game against Paulo, and once again I used Danne's team, and I should have mentioned it earlier, but Danne is the highest rated Swedish player in Silph Arena and has been that for almost a year now, which is a great achievement. But now this is a concerning situation, because my opponent has a double shielded Wigglytuff and I have nothing that can beat a double shielded Wigglytuff, so I'm going to lose the shield advantage, and that's likely bad for me since they switched out immediately, and therefore they likely have a good counter to Cofagrigus in the back. So I'm going to bet that Frostless is my most important Pokemon, and therefore I go in here with Cofagrigus and take out this Wigglytuff with a Psychic just to keep my Frostless at full health. And then my opponent sends in another Charmer, so it was a double Charmer line. So the better play in the beginning would have been to switch into Clefable, because you much rather have the Wigglytuff against Cofagrigus to double resist all of the Shadow Claws. But now it's too late for that, and Frostless will be able to close out this game with 2 Avalanches against this Whiscash. Moving on to the last game of this video against Sofiaban, and I pick up a great lead, and I'm back with my double water line. So here any of my Pokemon can handle this Shadow Nidoqueen, so I feel like I'm in a great spot. But then I fire off a blind Shadow Ball against whatever my opponent switched in, and it's a Diggersby. So that's terrible actually, a very bad play by me, the worst play of the day, completely stupid. Anyways, I go into my Alomomola that can handle Diggersby just fine, and I overcharge a bunch of energy and then take it out with a Psychic. So here I'm still in a good spot, but my opponent's last Pokemon is a Serperior. So here I make the second big mistake of the game. I go for a Psychic, expecting a shield instead of going for the Blizzard, because it's pretty common that people don't know the count on Alomomola. So I expected the shield, but they didn't shield, they knew what they were doing, so my team has absolutely no chance against a double shielded Serperior with energy advantage. So I'm just hoping that they are not shielding, and of course they shield, because why wouldn't they? And then they take me out with a Frenzy Plant, and my Blastoise is not going to, or it will be able to take down the Serperior, but the Nidoqueen in the back has way too much health and a shield, and there is no way I could have won that game after all of those misplays. So that's it, my 28 game win streak, and I wonder if you like this kind of format where I showcase a lot of teams in the same video, and thanks for watching.